Welcome to this week's episode of Crimepedia. This week I am not your host. Your host is the man in the map. It is Morgan.
Hello, Cherry.
The man in the map. Oh, seriously, every time I see maps now, I think of you. It's hilarious.
I love map.
I know you do.
I've always loved map. I don't know why. That's something that I've always enjoyed.
People find it really hard to read maps.
I don't understand that.
Because do you remember when I first got my car when I was like 17, the first thing that my mum bought me was like an A to Z of the roads in England. So that I had this, because obviously Google wasn't there then. And I remember it was this massive, great big book. It was huge. And so she said to me, like, you need to learn to read a map so that you never get lost, so that you can always know where you're going. Because some people really struggle, don't they, with how to read a map. I think it's much easier. I find reading maps quite easy. And I quite like a map.
Yeah. So I remember, I don't know how old I was. I was probably maybe 10, something like that, around 10. My mom was a teacher. And so, she had access to like a lamination machine or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I had like this map of, I think it was just like Franklin County, Ohio. So Columbus. And, I had it up on the wall, but to preserve it, she ended up having like laminated. Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember one time I was in trouble and I thought I was going to run away. So I took that laminated map.
Aww.
And I took my brother was in a Boy Scout, so he had like a Boy Scout's backpack. So I took that, and I ended up with a pair of hedge clippers because I figured I'm going to have to walk. I'm going to need them if I have to like end up in the woods. I'm going to have to cut my way through the woods.
That's good thinking. How old were you? 10?
Like probably 10, I'm guessing.
Aww.
Yeah. So I remember like my bedroom was on the second floor, and I remember I threw everything out my bedroom window. And then I snuck outside and I get out back. And when I get out back, my sister is looking through the backpack, finds the map and everything.
Oh, no.
And so she's like, I'm going to tell Mom and Dad you're running away. And not thinking, I end up grabbing the head clippers and like swinging and like hitting her in the like, elbow with the head clippers.
Oh, dear.
And then immediately running inside, yelling to my parents, I didn't do it.
You'd be such a crap criminal.
I didn't do it.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
I swear to God, I know I'm holding the hedge clippers in my hands right now, but yeah. I did not do it.
Oh, that's so funny. And so your map was absolutely useless because you didn't even get a chance to use it. You didn't even get out of the backyard.
Nope. I didn't get out of the backyard. Useless map.
Oh,
gee.
Dear.
You couldn't even tell me my sister was going to be out there, looking through my stuff. Stupid map.
Stupid sisters.
Ruining everything.
Oh. So we do have some updates this week. Not funny ones, unfortunately, but we do have some updates. We did tell you that before, the case that we did on the unidentified hiker, Mostly Harmless, I think it was like episode 2 and 3 that we did.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah, we did find out that Collier County Sheriff's Office had been contacted by somebody who had come forward with a name saying that they believe that they knew who the hiker was. And then we got an email from Collier County this week to say that, yes, we updated you guys on Instagram to say that, yes, they have got a positive DNA match now, and that the person who we know as Mostly Harmless is actually a guy called Avance Rodriguez. And I read some articles about him written. I can't remember the guy's name. I had written it down so I could tell you, but I read this article written by this guy who originally covered the story of the missing hiker that nobody knew, and did this whole big story on him. And now he's done another one, like a follow-up, and he's been in contact with his ex-girlfriend and his family and friends of his, flatmates of his. And it was a really interesting read, actually. It was really, really interesting. And he sort of said he's come to the hearts of so many thousands and possibly millions of people, but people don't actually know him at all. And it's funny how you can make up your own mind of what you think this person's going to be like.
From that article, that was in the Adventure Journal,
That's the one.
right?
Yes,
I believe
thank
so.
you. Yeah.
And it was an article by Jason Nark.
That's the one. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
But in reading through the updated article with the interviews, it seems like Vance Rodriguez was a troubled man. Troubled in a way. I think he probably had some mental health issues. And I think he had some social anxieties.
Yeah. He was a bit of a recluse, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. A lot of people said that he had issues with maintaining healthy relationships with friends and family.
Yeah.
So that does sound like, there's probably some mental health issues that he was dealing with or suffering with.
Yeah. And it's funny because you kind of just go you make your own mind up on this person from the pictures. And so you kind of just sort of not really conjure up in your head what you think this person's going to be like, but you automatically think that this person is a really nice person that is missing, and therefore you feel sorry for them because they haven't been like claimed by somebody. And it was just really interesting to read through it. I'm really pleased that they have found out who he was. I'm really pleased that the family now know that he, that's happened to him. I think I think it's nice to know. It's nice for them to know what's gone on, not to just think that he's just disappeared off somewhere, because he literally did just leave his flat. His flat was exactly how it was when he left, down to everything, down to all his ID being in the place, food from shopping being in the place. Everything was as it was, as if he had just stepped out and gone out to get a coffee or something, which is crazy. But I'm really pleased. I'm glad that it's all been solved. I'm glad for Collier County Sheriff's Office that this has been solved and that this is something that they can now file away. I think it's really good. It's nice to know. And of course, the other update we've got is that the case that we did about the murder of Bobbi Jo Stinnett,
episode 19.
You're good at that. She, unfortunately,
I looked it up
very fast. Unfortunately, we did speak about Lisa Montgomery, the lady that was charged with her murder and kidnap of her unborn child, was due to be executed on the 12th of January. But then we had a stay of execution whilst there were so many things going on. But unfortunately, she was executed on the 12th of January this year.
On the 12th, yeah. So the final appeals, they actually went up to the very last minute. So I think it was actually delayed until 1 a.m. on the 13th or something like that. That's when they finally started the execution.
This is a very, very difficult case. This is such a difficult case.
It is.
I think you're either one side or the other. I think it's so hard. This is such a hard case to...
Yeah, and I think with this case especially, because knowing the background of Lisa Montgomery, knowing the issues that she's dealing with now, knowing that she was at a point where she didn't understand what was happening or what was occurring to her. It kind of...
But I wonder...
It's sad. It's sad.
I wonder, was she at a point where she didn't understand? I'm so... This case is probably the most difficult case I've ever had to get my head around. I find this one so hard to... I don't know. It's just one of those cases that I've really struggled with this one, in that I can understand why people... I can understand why people feel sorry for her, but I just keep coming back to Bobbie's family. I just keep coming back to Bobbi Jo's family, and I just keep thinking, if I were in this situation, if I was their family, how would I possibly feel? And it's really, you can't really say for sure how you would feel, because I've thankfully never been in that position. But it's just this case is so hard.
Yeah,
so hard.
It is.
Not a great news week. Yeah, it's not a good update week. Although we found Vance, it's nice that we found him, but it is sad that his family have lost him. And I'm sure Lisa Montgomery have got family that are very sad, and her legal team are probably very sad. So yeah, not great news. Have you got anything good news? Any good news for this week from you?
I don't think so.
No, I haven't
I
either. There's
don't
nothing.
think so.
Oh no, I have. I have got good news.
Okay.
So, well, it's not good news for anyone else, but quite good news for me. I told you that I shared something on Instagram and didn't expect anything from this, but I won a copy of Colin Sutton's book Manhunt.
Oh yeah.
So excited
Yeah.
about this. I've started
All
reading it
that.
actually, and it's really good from the first page. So if you do get the chance to get hold of a copy of this book, it's called Manhunt, and it's written by former Detective Chief Inspector Colin Sutton, and it's about the serial killer in England called Levi Belfield. You probably won't know, if you're English, you probably won't know straight away who that is, but he is the man who murdered Millie Dowler, which you'll probably know her name, a young girl. He also murdered a lady called Marsha McDonnell and another lady called Amélie de Lagrange. And he's just a horrible, horrible man, obviously. And his crimes are well known, although his name is not well known here, but his crimes are very well known. And it's a really good book from the very first chapter, really good. So if you get the chance to get hold of it, make sure you do. CrimeCon UK have got a book club at the moment that's just started. And I think it's February the 9th, you can go over and you can watch interviews with authors and stuff like that, and they'll tell you what book you should be reading, and it's actually a really good idea, so it's highly recommended to go and try that out. I do love a book club.
You should start Cherry's book club.
I love a book club. So, I'm a member of a really good book club. I love books. I've got so many books. I love them. And yeah, I'm excited about the
Cherry's book club. Or we'll just do Crimepedia. How about
Crimepedia's book club? I like it. So let's go into this week's case because I'm so excited to get this episode going.
So this one is going to be part 3 of our Breckenridge Murders series, and this is going to be the final part.
Conclusion.
The conclusion. And so to conclude our talk about the Breckenridge Murders, we are going to be discussing our suspects.
This is going to be the most interesting episode, I think, because my mind has changed so many times. Episode 1, I thought, okay, at the end, I know who it is. Episode 2, okay, I think I know who it is, but now there could be more. And so episode 3, I think it's going to ruin everything.
This is going to be fun because there are going to be people that we mentioned that you have never heard of. We've not mentioned them at all during any of these episodes. And at least there 2 of them who are very good suspects who you may never have heard of before, but you should have.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
I was just thinking that. Da, da, da.
All right.
Let's go.
Actually,
come on. Let's go.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
All right. So, Cherry, I think we start with the obvious first suspect, which is, of course, Jeff Oberholtzer.
Right there in the husband camp.
So some of this we talked about before, but I just want to kind of go over this again. So when Jeff was first interviewed by police officials, we got to remember he denied knowing Annette Schnee. Okay. But then after a few days, after seeing a picture of Annette in the newspapers, Jeff then came back and admitted to having picked her up at least once while she was hitchhiking, and that he gave her the business card, which they did end up finding with her backpack.
Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, because both victims were associated or known by one individual, this, of course, being Jeff, the investigation initially focused on Jeff as being a prime suspect. And
which you would.
And this probably was, at least for the first 10 years, at least, Jeff was the prime suspect.
Okay.
Because you got to remember, too, this was also pre-DNA testing and everything. So, of course, they're like, okay. And so we talked about the blood on the gloves, right? And then on the tissue. And I don't know if we mentioned this actually in the episode or if this was something we found out later and talking to Charlie McCormick, but the blood on the gloves the blood type matched Bobbi Jo's. So initially they believed the blood was that of Bobbi Jo's.
Yeah.
Okay? But it wasn't until later that they find out that it wasn't.
Yeah,
okay?
It's the same blood type, but when they further tested it with the DNA, they found it was male.
That is correct.
They didn't have that sort of facility to do that back in the early 80s.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So 2 months after Bobbi Jo was murdered, Jeff did take a polygraph exam and did pass that.
Oh, okay.
All right. So he did pass a polygraph exam early on in the investigation. Jeff also he did claim that he had a rock solid alibi, in that his alibi was at the time of the murder, he was at home with his friend Joe Urban.
Mm-hmm.
However, you once again remember Joe Urban. We did not find him until December of 1990.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
so they weren't able to actually talk to his friend and kind of confirm, yeah, I was with him that day until 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, but then I think we also mentioned when we went over time frame, we're not even sure if that alibi really, if it would cover the Annette Schnee murder, and if it would really cover Bobbi Jo's murder.
Okay.
So there are still questions about that alibi, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, going back to the blood, you mentioned it about the DNA testing and them finding it being male. Okay.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, the Summit County Sheriff's Department was able to actually test the blood for DNA, and that it cleared Jeff. So the blood on the glove was not Jeff Oberholtzer's.
Right. Okay. So he's been cleared of that completely.
Well, he's been cleared
Of the blood.
of the blood.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, when we get into, I mean, we can talk with Jeff, and then when we talk about these other suspects, I think the question is going to keep coming up, which is, was this done by one person or was this done by two? Right.
Yeah.
So while it clears Jeff of being the source of the blood.
Of the blood, it doesn't actually clear him of being at the scene.
Yes, or being a part of it.
Part of it. Okay. We also had on our Instagram, I should have got this up before we started actually, but on our Instagram, we did have a lady that messaged to say that she lived in Breckenridge. And she said that we were talking about the items being thrown out of the passenger seat. Because they were on the passenger side. And she said that the roads that are in Breckenridge are very small. And she said it's very easy to pull across the road. There's no central reservations. It's very easy to pull across the road and throw something out of the driver's side window onto the other side of the road. So it is possible that it could have been one person in a car that threw them out of their window, but would have actually gone across the road to look like it was in the passenger side. So she said,
yes,
she thinks that could be a bit of a red herring there, in that it possibly isn't two people.
So that would be easy when it came to something like Colorado Highway 9. So on 9, yes, that is definitely a possibility. However, that's going to be a lot more difficult when we're talking about 285, because for that to occur where they're throwing it out the driver's side, but they pull across, they would have had to drive past the locations, right? So past the Hamilton Ranch, past 4 miles. So they are going a long distance away in order to turn around to throw stuff out the driver's side out. So it looks like they're heading in towards Denver.
Right.
While it is possible, I think it's unlikely.
Okay.
So I could see like on 9 where that could have happened. Yes.
Yeah.
Now the other thing that could have happened with Annette's backpack, which was found on 9, is we got to remember too that there was a lot of snowplow activity.
Yes.
So is it possible that a snowplow had gone through that, or let's say that her backpack was on the road, snowplow came through and ended up pushing it over,
picked it up over,
over to the right hand side. Yes, that is possible.
Okay.
But that's less likely when it comes to the location of Bobbi Jo's backpack and driver's license.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So because of the distance, how far it was into the field,
it's less likely to have been a plow.
Yeah, a plow was not going to be pushing her backpack that far into the field.
Okay.
So it is possible, but it's
unlikely.
I still think with like the 285 locations, I think it's unlikely that they would have gone that far into, trying to deceive
Yeah,
the police.
yeah, and have the time to think that out.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's definitely a good point, though. I mean, I
Yeah,
understand.
definitely, and it's really good to hear from somebody that lived in the area. I mean, that's
Oh,
always
yeah,
it's always
absolutely.
really good. So yeah, thanks very much for your message. That was really good. I forget your name. Sorry, I didn't write it down, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. Um, so next I'm gonna briefly mention, and I don't really want to say that he is a good suspect, but at one point he was a suspect in this murder,
Right. Okay.
and that was Henry Lee Lucas. And do you know the name Henry Lee
I
Lucas?
know. Yeah, I know that name. Where do I know the name from?
He was a convicted serial killer who was he had confessed to murdering hundreds of people across the country,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
along with his former lover, who was Otis Elwood
He's
Toole.
got strange teeth, hasn't he? There's a famous picture of
Yeah.
him looking like I can't really explain it. I don't want to say
Uh-huh.
what I thought because just in case it offends anybody. But yeah, you'll probably know the picture I'm talking about. Yeah, I know who you mean.
So there were two things that connected Henry Lee Lucas to potentially this case. Okay.
Okay.
First being that he did admit at least at one point to killing a woman in Colorado in 1982. So uh, so he had a self confession which would have put him in Colorado around the times of the murder. The other thing was that he was convicted, or he was admitted to the murder of a woman in Texas
Hmm.
known as the Orange Sock Doe. This was a woman that
Oh.
was found laying dead wearing a pair of orange socks. I think that's completely just
Oh, I think that's just a coincidence in the sock business.
absolute
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yeah.
Um, I think Henry Lee Lucas is a type. He's the guy. He's the type of the killer that would he he liked to toot his own horn a little bit, So I think he
Yeah.
he claimed a lot more murders than he would actually was
Yeah.
involved with.
Which is such a weird
Um,
thing to do, isn't it?
it is, but I mean, I guess at that point you've been caught for
It's
one
like
murder. It's like,
something stupid like 600 he's claimed to have done. Something silly like that.
yeah. So it's like, if you're a monster, why don't you try to make yourself look like more of a monster? But
Yeah, big yourself up a
um,
bit.
I don't. So like I said, I'm not gonna put a whole lot of time and effort into him because I don't think
No.
he actually was involved.
No. Okay. Okay, but
Now
then he's there on the possible suspect list. So
he is.
okay,
He
that's
is.
cool.
Now we have two more that I want to discuss, and
Hmm.
these are probably, I think, out of the people that are known suspects
Mm.
or that were active in the area. I think these two are probably the best suspects that we have at this time. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Now this is what's crazy too. So in 1982, there were at least four serial killers that were either in Summit County, Colorado, or passed through the area. So this area at the time was extremely, extremely busy with.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I
What?
have no idea
Well, we
why.
were just talking just before we started recording. We were talking about serial killers, and we were talking about when they were prevalent, and it's crazy. The 70s and 80s, there were loads and loads of
Yeah.
active serial killers. It was like a right
And
time for them.
yeah, and in 1982 there were four in the area of this.
That's in one place,
Four.
and Breckenridge isn't even huge, is it? It's
No,
crazy.
it is not. Four.
That's just
Absolutely insane.
all like the snow and skiing.
I guess they want to have this little ski vacation before they go to jail. I don't know. I
It's
have no
mad,
idea.
isn't it?
No, I don't know. So let's talk about the first one of these. Okay, these
Hmm.
two. And this suspect's name is Tracy Petroselli. Now, this is a name that a lot of people probably do not know.
No, I don't think anyone will know that name.
So Tracy Petroselli, he was previously on death row in Nevada
Mm.
after killing at least one man during a cross-country spree,
Yeah.
which included a stop in Colorado. Now, I said he was previously on death row because within the past few years, his death row conviction was overturned and was commuted or changed to life in prison. So he is still in jail, life in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is considered to be a suspect in this murder or in these murders, even though his blood did not match the DNA that was found on the glove and on the tissue with Bobbi Jo Oberholtzer's backpack.
Yeah, and because like we've mentioned before, it doesn't exclude him from being part of the crime or at the crime scene. It just means that he didn't bleed.
Exactly. And I will with him, you'll kind of understand why he's looked at as being a suspect. All right.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about Tracy. So Petroselli, he began his spree in I believe it was 1981.
That's right. Yeah.
When he fatally shot his girlfriend in front of a large crowd outside of a Seattle bar. So he was known to pick up accomplices as he crossed the country, where he would commit numerous crimes. And him and accomplices, they stole cars from dealerships in Oklahoma, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and in California.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Petroselli at one point was in Thornton, Colorado, where he and an unidentified accomplice test drove a car from a local dealership. And during that drive, the accomplice seated in the back seat shot this car salesman, but did not kill him. So we know that he did ride around with people that they would both commit these murders or attempted murders.
Mm-hmm.
So Petroselli was eventually arrested. He was arrested and convicted of killing a James Wilson, who was a Nevada car salesman.
That's right. Yeah.
That him and an accomplice killed while test driving a Volkswagen pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
When he was stopped in Nevada, he did include have the identifications of 3 men who were all missing and believed to be dead. One of those men, of course, Jerry, you know.
Yes, I mean, when we
well,
were,
you don't know.
I don't know him. No,
no.
Yeah, I don't know him personally.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking into Petroselli's name and looking into him, I found that a guy from Frome in Somerset moved over to Wyoming in 1981 for a new life. He became friends with Petroselli, or they somehow got to know each other, and he went missing. And they found his skull. He went missing from a place called Evanston in Utah. I think that's how you say it, Evanston. He was 26, and his skull was found 3 years later by hikers in a national forest 32 miles away. And they identified Petroselli as a murder suspect because his ID was found on him when Petroselli was arrested in 1982. So he had the dead guy's stuff on him when he was arrested. So that's from England. Yeah. Totally insane.
Now, the other thing that kind of pointed police towards Petroselli and being a suspect in the murder was when police did question Petroselli about his crimes. He told police that when he was in Colorado, the only town that he actually stayed in was in Breckenridge, and he stayed overnight in a hotel.
Oh,
that hotel.
I was going to say, come on, which hotel was it that he stayed in?
That hotel was the Holiday Inn in Frisco.
And who worked in the Holiday Inn in Frisco?
Annette Schnee.
Yes, she did. You know my thoughts on this guy. You know my thoughts on this.
Before you give your thoughts,
I'm not going to do them yet.
We have one more suspect to talk about.
Yep.
And that is Thomas Edward Luther.
Yes.
Okay. So we could actually probably do a whole episode on Thomas Luther.
Yeah.
If we want to. I mean, there's enough of information about him and enough terrible things he did that we could probably cover him in a whole episode.
He's really not a nice guy.
He's not a nice guy.
No.
So for years, in addition to Jeff Oberholtzer, Thomas Edward Luther was considered another prime suspect in the case.
Okay.
Now, he was convicted in a February 1982 sexual assault of a 21-year-old woman in Silverthorne, Colorado.
Right.
which is approximately 14 miles north of Breckenridge.
So not out the way. It's not too far away, really. It's driving distance.
No. Oh, no. Yeah, it's very close.
Close,
I mean,
yeah.
you think about it, it's probably as far as, what Alma would be to Breckenridge.
Yeah, so really not very far at all.
Exactly. So this 21-year-old woman had been dropped off by a Trailways bus in a laundromat parking lot that served as a bus depot in Frisco. She had just arrived from Denver and was expecting to be given a ride by friends to Silverthorne, where they were staying in a condominium. They were actually they're basically there for like a weekend ski vacation. But when she got there and got off the bus, her friends were nowhere to be found. Despite some initial hesitation, the woman ended up accepting a ride from Thomas Luther, who also offered to help her locate her friends in Silverthorne. So they ended up driving around Silverthorne area aimlessly for a while until Thomas Luther turned onto a dead-end street, which was surrounded by deep snow.
Right.
There he began to physically attack and sexually assault the woman. But despite the vicious attack, which left her naked and beaten, Thomas Luther did not kill her. Now, in this attack, he actually used a hammer in this attack. So he was beating her with a hammer.
Jeez, that's awful.
It is terrible.
Yeah.
So after stopping the attack, Thomas Luther sat motionless, looking at his bloody hands, and then began driving away. And he only drove a few feet before he stopped again, and he allowed the woman to leave. Okay. So she gets out. She found a nearby home. They called the Silverthorne police, and after interviewing her, they were able to quickly determine it was Thomas Luther, and they found him at his home, which was a trailer home in Frisco that he shared with his girlfriend at the time, named Sue Potter, who happened to be a Frisco police trainee at the time. So Thomas Luther ended up was taken into custody without incident. Now, when questioning Sue Potter about the attack and incidents, she did indicate that she did have a loaded .38 caliber police revolver under her pillow. And this is the type of revolver which would have been similar to the type that was used in the murders of Bobbi Jo and Annette.
Right.
Now, we talked about how a partial bullet fragment was located where Bobbi Jo was found, so in the parking lot. So we were told by Charlie McCormick that the bullet was in such bad shape that they couldn't actually do any ballistic analysis on it. So they weren't able to actually determine if that gun had been used in the murders of Bobbi Jo and Annette.
God, that's crazy, isn't it? It's frustrating.
Super,
yeah, really frustrating.
So while in jail, I was gonna say jail, Bobbi Jo. What the fuck is wrong with me? Jesus Christ. So while in jail, Thomas Luther. Oh, actually, let me rephrase that so it doesn't sound like I was laughing.
I was gonna say because it sounds like you're smiling.
Yeah, I know. While in jail, Thomas Luther did boast to other inmates that he did in fact kill Bobbi Jo and Annette.
And this is strange, isn't it? Again, I mean, he's boasting to people that he did kill them. It's another one where, why would you do that? Unless it's just to big yourself up and against other criminals. That's ridiculous.
I know, and absolutely, like especially like I don't understand. Yeah, why would you incriminate yourself?
Exactly. If you did it, why would you?
You don't. There are nobodies in jail, right? There are nobodies in jail.
Exactly.
You have nobody. Like no one's gonna be like, oh, that's my buddy. I'm not gonna snitch on him.
No, that's right.
Maybe I'm gonna get an extra pudding for my lunch. So yeah. I'm gonna tell on him.
A little extra blanket. No, what a load of rubbish. Stupid man.
Yes. So in May 1982, another inmate at the Summit County Jail approached a deputy about information that he had about Thomas Luther, and he would later claim that his information regarded the murders of the two women, and that he was told by Luther that he had left one lying face down in a stream.
Interesting. But then had that information already been out in the press? It must have been.
No, because they don't
No.
find Annette until September 82.
So that there is just incriminating himself.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So a guy in May
Mm.
tells the deputy that, Tom Luther killed 2 women and left one of them lying down in a stream.
In a stream, yeah. And then she's not found yet. And when she is found face
She is
down in a
found
stream.
lying face down in a stream, yeah.
Wow.
So, yes, I mean, that's pretty damning evidence right there, I think, right? Or incriminating.
I think so. I mean, if it had been that he had come out and said that afterwards, then you would think, oh yeah, well, he's just got that information from the press or whatever. But for him to have come out and said that beforehand, that's that's crazy. That's very, very strange.
Mm-hmm. Very, very, very strange.
Yeah.
Now, because of this, detectives were absolutely sure that it was Luther who committed the murders. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to take the case to trial.
No.
There was no physical evidence that tied him to the murder scenes. And when investigators did interview him about the murders of Bobbi Jo and Annette, he denied any involvement in it.
Mm.
So after this attack in 1982, a sexual attack on the 21-year-old, he serves time in jail, is released. And it didn't take long for Thomas Luther to find himself in more trouble. So in 1993, Thomas Luther ended up being charged with the murder of Cher Elder.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Who was shot in the head and dumped.
Mm.
Now, Thomas Luther had cut off her ring finger and her lips because she threatened to expose an illegal sports card ring he was connected to.
That's just crazy.
It's very crazy. Now, the following year, Thomas Luther was convicted in West Virginia in the rape of a 30-year-old Virginia woman. Now, prosecutors argued that in both cases, he attacked women who resembled his mother because she abused him.
Oh, God.
Okay. Now, let's remember, so we're talking 1993, 1994 now. Around the same time, the investigators in the Bobbi Jo, Oberholtzer, Annette Schnee case, their biggest break came with the improvements to DNA testing.
Mm.
And so then we get back into testing the glove and tissue for DNA and comparing that against some of our suspects. With the improvements to DNA testing, investigators were convinced that the blood that was found on Bobbi Jo's glove and on the tissue would link Luther to the crime, and would be the key evidence leading to his conviction.
Yeah.
However, the DNA did not match.
Did not. And we spoke to Charlie, and when we spoke to him, he did say that they would believe that it would be that's what you'd think it would be the killer's blood that was part of this. So that must have been such, they must have been so deflated and disappointed after his blood isn't the same blood. That must have been
absolutely.
so, especially when you're so convinced that it's him and that you think you've got him, for it then to be not him. It's like, no, another kick.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that we were told is that at the time, investigators knew who Thomas Luther was like running around with in Colorado at the time. And it was actually a friend who was from Vermont who was with him at the time in Colorado. So they ended up testing him as well. And once again, no match.
But again, like we said, just because the blood isn't his doesn't mean to say that he wasn't involved somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Now, in addition to these suspects, I know that they have tested, at least 9 or 10 specific people who had close relationships with the women.
Yeah.
And who were considered suspects. Everyone that they've tested there's been no match.
No.
There have been other people that they have requested DNA from, including, if I'm not mistaken, when talking to Charlie, I believe one was an ex-boyfriend who refused to be DNA tested. And so there's There are some suspects out there that have not been tested. So I
Mm,
can't say that all suspects have been cleared because of DNA.
no.
Um, but I'm thinking chances are that this was done by a boyfriend or something. I don't think it was.
No, well, the thing is the thing with that is that you've got two women that are seemingly unconnected, and that's where the whole boyfriend husband kind of situation goes out the window for me. In that, if it was just the one, then that could is a possibility. But then when it's two completely unconnected women, I find that hard that it is a boyfriend of Annette's or a husband of Bobbi Jo's, because I just think, well, why would they do the other if they'd already done the girlfriend or the wife? Why would they then go and find the other one? So I see what you mean with that one. It's hard, isn't it?
It is. So we've talked about some suspects here, some suspects that we know of. I'm sure there's a ton out there that we don't know of. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so from as soon as you told me about this case, and I read the first bits, my first, like everybody's is, my first thoughts were it was the husband. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, I think it's Jeff. And I watched some documentaries and still thought it was Jeff. And then
Mhm.
it was the it was the light bulb moment for me when
Mhm.
it was Annette was killed first and then Bobbi Jo. Even though Annette was found later, Annette was killed first and
Yeah,
Bobbi Jo was killed second. So then that killed off the whole Jeff Oberholtzer thing for me, because if it had just been Bobbi Jo, I could understand it.
absolutely. Yeah, be husband. Yeah,
and
definitely husband.
and
Right.
I understand that she had his card in her wallet, but I also think that maybe he didn't know her from a name. If I said to you, "Oh no, do you know Sarah?" Whatever, and you go, "No, no, I don't." But then if you saw a picture of her and you go, "Oh my God, yeah, I gave
Yeah,
her my
yeah.
business card. I gave
Hmm.
her a ride home." So that I think it was that he didn't deny knowing her. I think it's just that he didn't know her. And then when he saw a picture of her, was like, "Oh shit, yes, I did. I've given her a ride. This is going to look bad." So for me, I think Jeff has been ruled out in my brain and in my sort of investigation and looking at everything that I've looked at. I would say I would rule Jeff out of this.
I agree, even though I still have questions about Jeff. Right.
I do. I mean, I do have questions. I have questions that why didn't Bobbi Jo phone him to collect her when she was early in the evening? Why wouldn't you phone your husband? So I do have questions, that there are questions for Jeff that I haven't got
And
answers to.
and even with saying, okay, well, here's a picture of her, going, oh yeah, I remember I gave her a ride once,
Mm,
and I gave her a business card.
mm.
This is common. It sounds like this is something common that he would do, give people rides. You can't. There's no way that you're gonna remember everyone that you give a ride to
No.
and everyone you give a business card to.
Mm.
So there had to have been something else that made him go, "Oh yeah, yeah, definitely recognize her."
Do you think there's something else?
I don't. I can't say for sure, but there is just. I
There's
don't know.
just
There's just
something.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I've never given anyone, picked up any hitchhikers or anything. But
No.
it's hard for me to imagine if this is common occurrence of picking people up for giving them rides,
Mm.
that you would be able to recognize everyone that you gave a ride to.
But maybe it wasn't just once. Maybe he didn't just give her once. Maybe he was flirting with her. Maybe there was something a little bit more than just maybe there was something a little bit more that he's not going to say because it makes him look bad. But like we've said, it doesn't necessarily mean that he murdered her. There's nothing really
That's true.
concrete to say.
Yeah.
There
Hmm.
might have been a little bit of infidelity there. There might have been a little bit of a cheeky, flirting or something that he's not going to
Yeah,
admit
and
to
that's the
now
thing
because it
too.
makes him seem like a bad guy. The girl's just been found dead. So.
Yeah, and if it was okay, so if there is infidelity, and if, let's say hypothetically, the only thing that would cause, well, let me rephrase that.
Mm,
Um, if there's infidelity, and let's say that Jeff was seeing Annette on the side,
yeah.
right? Why would you kill the girlfriend and the wife? Why would you kill them both?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. The ends don't really meet up with with Jeff's situation.
No, it doesn't.
No. And
So yeah,
I still want to know who the guy in the unidentified photo is. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think we need to know who that guy is as well. But for me, I think I would rule Jeff out now. That's how I would look at it. I think I would rule him out. When it comes to Henry Lee Lucas, I don't think he's got anything to do with it. I think that's just, somebody who's just mouthing off about stuff and trying to make himself look good. I don't think that there's anything that makes me think, it could be him, really, realistically.
Okay. So what about Thomas Luther?
See, this is the thing. Petrocelli and Luther, for me, are the two that I can't really decide between. Petrocelli, because it's very like him, the way that the girls were left, he's got no qualms about that kind of stuff, and he was in the area, and that's just maybe a really bad coincidence, but
it is.
There's a link. There is a link you can't ignore.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I think I have that goes against Petrocelli, is the fact that he seems like, well, besides killing of his girlfriend, it seems like everyone he killed was a means to the end, right? So so we know he killed one car dealership, employee. In Colorado, he killed another one in Nevada.
Yeah, and they were means to getting stuff, weren't they?
Yeah, so I need a car.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a test drive. I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, what would be the reason behind Annette Schnee and Bobbi Jo Oberholtzer? The only thing would be it'd be sexual, right?
Yeah.
They're not ends to any means.
They've got nothing to give him to take. There's nothing to him to gain from meeting them.
Mm-hmm. And then with his MO being having an accomplice, that might explain why 2 in one night. Maybe they're like, hey, let's go find some women, and then one gets Annette Schnee, and then it's like, okay, now we got to go get one for my buddy, and they pick up Bobbi Jo. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason for 2.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. And with Thomas Luther, he the same. I mean, his MO is quite similar. The stabbing, the shooting, that to me was very similar, and so that straight away struck a chord. But the thing that really bugs me about him is the whole face down in the stream, or the face down in the river kind of thing. That's the thing that makes me think, whoa, hang on a minute. That's another link. It's another too much information. But I can't, the two of them, obviously I think with Thomas Luther is that his is a sexual anger, you can see why he does what he does.
Yeah.
His is but with Petrocelli, like you say, there's nothing to gain other than it being a sexual thing. There's nothing really that he's going to gain from this. He hasn't stolen their car. He hasn't taken their money,
But we don't know what else Petrocelli has done.
No,
right?
Exactly.
We only know of the things that he has been pinned for, right?
Yeah.
So the things that we're absolutely sure that he has done. So we don't know if there are other people out there, other women out there that he could have killed because of, they could be seen as a sexual way as it ends to the mean, right?
Of course, yeah.
I have this sexual need, so I'm just going to find someone. If you can so brazenly just kill, someone for a car.
Yeah. You could
why
kill
wouldn't
someone
you
for sex.
kill someone for sex? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, let me quickly go back to Thomas Luther, and this is the other thing that it kind of points me away from him.
Okay.
And it's the fact
you're the devil's advocate today, aren't you?
I hate it. Look here, I am, but the Tracy Petrocelli, Thomas Luther, they're both pieces of shit. So
obviously,
yeah, fuck both of them. But we know Thomas Luther lived in a trailer in Frisco.
Yeah.
So why would he be driving out to Como?
I don't know.
Why would he be driving the outside? He's going the wrong way.
I don't know. I mean, there might have been a reason for it. There might have been that he was just driving to do something, and then came across a hitchhiker and thought, "Yeah, okay, you'll do." I mean, the stranger things have happened. I mean, people have done that. They've just randomly picked people.
He must not have been in a hurry because he ended up going back to Breckenridge after picking up Annette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. This case is just crazy.
I don't know.
I don't like Thomas
So,
Luther and I don't like Petrocelli. Both of them could very easily have done this. That's the thing. Looking at both of them, it's something that both of them could have done. They're both connected
yep.
with the area. We know that they're serial
Hmm.
killers. We know that they've killed more than one person. We know that they're not very nice people. They've got no qualms about killing people and mutilating them and that kind of thing. The thing with Thomas Luther that bothers me is the whole stream thing. That's the one thing. If that wasn't a part of this, I would think, oh, okay, maybe. But the fact that he said that before she was even found, how you wouldn't even know that unless he knows who did do it.
Yeah, yeah. If he don't, yeah,
If he knew who did do it and then just says, well, I left her because he knows she's been left in a stream somewhere, then,
yeah,
and he's just being big about it in prison. There's nothing to say that he didn't know who did it. There's nothing to say that the person he was with didn't do it and he didn't actually do it, but he was there. He's obviously got knowledge of it from somewhere, because otherwise how else would he have known that she would have been found, where she was? So he is my most likely suspect purely because of what he's shouting about, because nobody knew
yeah.
that.
Well, not to make you question it,
I knew
but
you were going to do it. I just knew that was coming. Well,
no. But this is an honest question.
okay.
So the source of this is once again a fellow prisoner, right?
Yeah.
So are we gonna take him at his word that he did in fact in May of 1982 say this?
But I don't like snitches. Well, that's what I said. That's what I meant. So this guy that said this snitch guy that came out and said this, when did he come out and say this? Was this before Annette was found?
Well,
Or
okay.
did he say this after the fact and said that he did say that?
He said, okay, so this is what we know. He said in May, in 1982, this is what I said, right? What I don't know when this was said though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Because then if he
So
said in 1994, oh, back in 82, he said this to me,
82.
then you can go, well,
That is
you've
completely
heard that on
different.
the news. But if he had said this in 82, then,
Yeah. If this was the deputy that says, "Oh yeah, hey, you know, I was told by so and so in May of 1982 this," right? If it was a deputy saying that, I think I would take that
yeah, obviously,
stronger
yeah,
than I would take from a fellow convict, right?
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, it's good.
yeah,
It's a good story.
yeah,
And it could have happened. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
The problem is I can't say for sure when exactly he came out and said, "Oh yeah, I was told by," or I told a deputy in May 1982 this.
Mm. And that's it. That's exactly right. If in 1982 he had gone to a deputy and said, "Look, he said this," but then if he had gone to the deputy in say 1990 and said, "Well, back in 82 he told me this," then you'd be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." I'm not listening to you, because I mean, the whole thing with jailhouse snitches is the fact that they are in jail. They are dishonest people. They've done bad things.
Yep.
They're not in jail for being angelic. They're in jail because they are dishonest. They are, they've done something wrong. So you can't believe, I don't think that jailhouse testimony should ever be used, because I don't think you can trust them.
Yeah.
You're going on a word.
Oh,
You're going on the word of somebody who's
yeah.
been to court and has been proved wrong and has gone to
Yeah.
prison. How many
And so
convicts actually
you have
stand up
to.
there and say, "Yes, I did it. Yes, it was me. Everything you're saying is true. Yes, yes, yes." They don't, do
Yeah.
they? They try and deny it.
You have to think about what are they trying to get out of this?
Mm.
How does this benefit them?
Yeah, they're going to get time off their sentence. They're going to get, like you say, an extra meal. What is he going to gain from this? If he's gaining nothing, he's got no reason to say it. But
Yeah.
if he's going to gain something from it, then you've really got to question his methods.
Yeah, exactly. And then Petrocelli, I mean, we talked to him about him. What's the likelihood that he would name the exact hotel that Annette Schnee worked at?
Yeah. Oh, it's hard.
Is it possible that at this time Petrocelli had a woman as a accomplice. Because who was the unidentified woman who I think we've blown over a little bit. I mean, we talked about the unidentified man in the photo, but we really haven't talked about the woman and like what's her connection to it.
Yeah, what's
and
her,
if she has no connection to it, why hasn't she ever come out like, oh yeah, I was with her.
That was me.
Store at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Or somebody come forward and said, oh yeah, that was whoever. That's you.
Well, we know the blood. We know the blood's not hers unless it was actually a man who has transitioned to being a woman, possibly. But why don't we know? Why hasn't that person come forward? So they have to be a suspect.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. You can't rule her out because she's unexplained. It's like the guy in the photograph. You can't rule him out yet because we know nothing about him. We know nothing about him. He may not have anything to do with this. He may have everything to do with this. But it's very strange that the last person Annette was seen with is this unidentified woman that Annette was buying cigarettes for, which you wouldn't do unless you knew the person. You're not going to buy some random stranger cigarettes unless she was giving her a lift. And that's what she was saying. Oh, I'll get those because you're giving me a lift. Thank you. But there's got to be some connection with her and Annette. They've got to have known each other somehow, because Annette was with her and buying her stuff from the pharmacy. So,
and whoever she was and whoever she might have been with, they were coming from Frisco. So we know for a fact where Annette was picked up before she made it to Breckenridge, right? Charlie McCormick told us. He said, there was a volunteer fire station on 9 between Frisco and Breckenridge, and that's where she got picked up before she made it into Breckenridge. So whoever picked her up had to have come from the Frisco area, Silverthorne, Frisco, something like that. So we know Petroselli at some point was in Frisco.
Yeah,
we know
that Luther was in.
Luther lived in Frisco with his girlfriend.
Yeah,
Sue. And actually, I'd be interested to see what Sue looks like. Does Sue look like the woman?
Yeah. That would be very interesting to find out what Sue looks like. The thing is, I don't think that this case, for us anyway, is going to be done with this episode, because there's so many more questions that we've got. And we spent how long were we on the phone to Charlie McCormick for? We must have been on the phone to him for a good hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah.
And there's so many questions that we've got. There's so many things that we can't quite find answers to. And we're not seasoned investigators, and there's so many things that we haven't got answers to. So I think this is going to be a case that we are going to I think that one day this will be solved one day.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be it's about waiting. It's going to be waiting for that time when it can.
I hope it's solved while we're doing this podcast, so we can sit here and talk about it.
We're not giving up to be able to do that until it's solved. We're going to still be going until we can do an update and we've got it. They've got him, and I would love to be able to phone Charlie and say, "Congratulations, you've got him. Congratulations." That would be a really satisfying phone call.
Absolutely. And Sherry, you are absolutely right. This episode is not going to be the last that we talk about it.
No.
Because we're going to have one more episode, which is going to be on our Patreon.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. If you're not part of our Patreon, you need to join to hear.
You need to join.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be an exciting one. So we are actually going to be sharing some of our interview with Charlie McCormick on our Patreon page. So you will get to hear at least a portion of our hour and a half conversation with Charlie, which he kind of dived into some of our questions. He explains some of the some of the issues that we have come across and we've had questions about. So it was an amazing talk that we had with Charlie.
Yeah, I feel very privileged to be able to speak to a man who is obviously a very invested. He's spent over 40 years of his life on this case. And it was really nice to be able to speak to him and get answers straight away, because, it's difficult, isn't it, to investigate a case where we don't have all the material to look through. We don't have all the questions answered. We have a lot of questions quite a lot of the time, and it is very difficult to get answers from police departments.
And what was it? Charlie said something amazing. He said when he started the case, there was a bunch of how many binders did he say
it's
there were?
Stupid, wasn't it? It was like not very many.
Like maybe 6 binders or something. Maybe
something
less than
like that. Yeah.
And so since he's taken over, now he has like 40 boxes of material or something absolutely insane.
Yeah. And he
Absolutely.
had to move them out of his house, didn't he? They had to be moved out of his house because there were so many.
I know. We need to go out to Breckenridge.
Oh, I think that's a really good idea. I would very much like to see this for myself. I'd very much like to see the area for myself.
Maybe we'll do that. We'll go to Breckenridge. We will have a meet and greet in Breckenridge. We'll do a tour of the area with some listeners if they want to join us. I think that would be amazing.
I think it would be very interesting. I'd really like to meet Charlie, and I'd really like to see what he was explaining to us. I think that would be really beneficial to the investigation, actually, from our point of view.
Sit down with Charlie have a nice beer with him.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really nice. He's a really nice man.
I think Charlie could drink us under the table.
You definitely drink me under the table. I can't drink beer. I'm sad that this is the last week. This is the last episode of the 3 because I feel like we could do another 3. It hasn't seemed like a 3-episode case, but actually we've been looking at this for months now, and you even longer. I mean, you've been looking at this case for a very, very long time.
And I'm not going to stop.
No.
I still
You can't.
I have different thoughts all the time, and it's like I could be laying in bed getting ready for bed, and then something pops in my head, and then immediately I have to go and start looking at it.
Yeah.
So even we talked about it before we started recording, but we both watched Night Stalker on Netflix this weekend. And I think it was last night. I was laying in bed. And I was thinking, what was Richard Ramirez doing in 1982?
Yeah, was he anywhere near?
Yeah, so it's like stuff like that. So it's like constantly. It's like, I'll have some random thought, and I even you were on the I've talked to you about it, but even I have questions about cigarette butts and what kind of brand of cigarettes people smoked, and there's so much out there.
You've done a lot.
Think and consider about it.
You've done a lot of investigating into this, and a lot of good work, actually, because a lot of things that have come up hadn't even been considered in the initial investigation. A lot of things that you brought up to Charlie, we realised that haven't actually that avenue hasn't even been looked at, and I think that's quite important. Because it's fresh eyes, it's fresh new eyes on something, and you look at it a different way. Because when you are used to looking into something so much, you kind of get a bit blinded by it because you feel like you already know the answers to that anyway. So when somebody new comes along and says, well, actually, what about that? And you go, oh yeah, what about that? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So I think you've done really well.
I think this is one of those cases too, and I think Charlie kind of mentioned it, that it's got hamstrung early on because of the number of agencies involved, and unfortunately, there were a lot of there wasn't a lot of work between the agencies, so there was a lot of dispute over who jurisdiction, and there was information not being shared between one another, which is never a good thing for investigation, especially one like this. So,
and this is a different investigation, isn't it? I mean, we've got a crime scene that spans, what was it, 30
miles.
30 miles. So this is not your average normal case. I mean, this is a 30-mile crime scene. That is an amazing amount of work.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's insane. The amount of work and amount of resources that a case like this would take, to kind of look into this.
And I hope that one day for the families, they will be able to come back and say, look, we've got it, we've got him, and this is what happened, so that at least they know. It won't make them feel any better, but at least they'll know what happened. And we will keep looking into this, and we'll keep on with this, and we'll keep updating you as and when we can with anything that we've got new. We will keep updating you with it. But for now, that's it for this case.
Absolutely. So Cherry, thank you for listening to me for 3 weeks, listeners. everyone out there listening, thank you for sticking with me.
Thank you.
And I know it's tough, having to wait week after week, but
it was worth it.
I'm glad you did, and I
appreciate
it.
Worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next week, new case. Next week, new case.
It's your case.
Another.
I think you need 3 cases in a row for me.
No,
Give me a break.
You're so good at this.
I try my best.
You did good. It's all good. You did a great job. This is a very interesting case. Very good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries. We will be back next week. So for now, be nice to each other and just be nice in general.
And bye. Ay. Ay.